Akihiro, Aki to everyone who knew him well enough not to use his full name, had a problem. Okay, maybe several problems, but the most urgent one today was that he had just accidentally told Haruto he liked him. Before we continue, please support us by hitting the like and subscribe button on your screen. Please also comment your thoughts. Back to the problem at hand. It wasn't supposed to happen. He had rehearsed in his head over and over the words he would say during the group project discussion. I think we should focus on the research first. Safe, neutral, academically responsible. But instead, when Haruto leaned over to adjust a stack of papers and smiled that ridiculously perfect smile, something inside Aki short-circuited. I like you. Aki blurted out before he could stop himself. The room froze. The quiet hum of other students working on laptops seemed to vanish entirely. Aki's face heated to the point he was sure someone could fry an egg on his cheeks. Haruto raised an eyebrow, the corner of his lips twitching into a grin. Oh, you like me, huh? He said, leaning casually against the table as if this were the most natural thing in the world. No. I like your idea about the project. Aki stammered, flailing with his hands as if that would somehow make the words he just said disappear. Haruto didn't look convinced. Your face says something different. His teasing tone made Aki want to sink into the floor and never reappear. To make matters worse, Sora, the quiet silver-haired guy in their group, had been sitting behind Aki, pretending to take notes. Only Sora wasn't pretending. He had overheard everything. His pale eyebrows drew together in confusion, then, something softer like curiosity or something slightly hurt? Aki couldn't tell from that unreadable expression. I didn't mean it. Aki muttered, covering his face with his hands. But of course, the gesture only drew more attention. Relax, Aki, Haruto said, stepping closer, lowering his voice in a way that made Aki's heart start thumping like a drumline. It's okay. I won't bite, unless you want me to. Aki froze. Did he just say that out loud? Panic flooded him, a hot, overwhelming wave that made him wish he could dissolve into the air. Instead, all he did was squeak and stumble backward into the chair. Sora cleared his throat, finally breaking the tension, or at least trying to. Oh, Aki, he said softly, are you serious? Aki blinked at Sora. Oh no. Sora thought he liked him too. Aki hadn't even considered that Sora could interpret his clumsy outburst in the same way. His mind went into overdrive. How could he explain? How could he fix this? Aki started, but words tangled like knots in his throat. Haruto's grin widened, clearly enjoying the show, while Sora just tilted his head, silently waiting for him to clarify. Finally, Aki gave up. He pushed back from the table, muttering something about coffee and brain freeze, and bolted toward the door like a man running from a fire. Behind him, he could hear Haruto's chuckle and Sora's quiet murmur. He's flustered, cute actually. Aki didn't look back. All he knew was this. Somehow, in a single catastrophic sentence, he had accidentally set himself on fire. Not literally, thank God, but socially, romantically, emotionally, yes, on fire. And somewhere out there, both Haruto and Sora were now staring after him, each thinking their own slightly dangerous thoughts about the awkward, disastrous, adorable mess that was Akihiro. Great, Aki muttered to himself as he fled down the hallway. I've officially started a love triangle I never wanted. Akihiro had spent the next 24 hours in a state of low-grade panic. He avoided the library, sidestepped the cafeteria, and even took a slightly longer route to class, all in a desperate attempt to escape the aftermath of his catastrophic confession. But life, it seemed, had other plans. The universe, or more accurately, Haruto and Sora, decided that Aki's attempts at invisibility were laughably ineffective. It started in the cafeteria. Aki had just grabbed a tray of lukewarm rice and vegetables, praying that he could eat in peace, when a shadow fell across his table. Well, if it isn't the famous confessing disaster himself, Haruto said, leaning casually against the table. His grin was infuriatingly smug, like he had rehearsed this exact moment for maximum torment. Aki froze mid-bite, chopsticks hovering like a trapped insect. I'm not. You're blushing, Haruto interrupted smoothly, which is basically an admission of guilt. Before Aki could respond, a soft voice spoke from the other side of the table. Aki, do you want to sit together? Sora. Calm, quiet, silver-haired Sora, holding a tray of his own. He looked expectant, maybe even a little concerned. Aki felt his chest tighten. Why does this always happen? Sure, Aki mumbled, shoving his tray awkwardly toward the empty seat. He tried to disappear behind his hair, But Haruto of course didn't let him. Mind if I join too? Haruto said, sliding into the bench across from him. Aki's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. Why you both? Yes, Haruto said, leaning back with a smug smirk, because apparently you're irresistible to more than one person. Lucky you. Sora simply raised an eyebrow, untouched by Haruto's teasing, and gave Aki a small, reassuring smile. It's fine, he said softly. We'll keep it calm. Aki wanted to scream. Or faint. Or disappear into his rice. Why can't they just leave me alone? The next few days were a blur of comedic chaos. Haruto seemed to delight in cornering Aki in the library, pretending to accidentally brush hands while reaching for the same book. Every time, Aki's thoughts scrambled, heart racing, brain malfunctioning. Meanwhile, Sora became unavoidably noticeable. He would quietly appear at study sessions, offering neatly organized notes, helping Aki with assignments, and always looking at him with those soft silver eyes that made Aki feel simultaneously seen and vulnerable. One afternoon, Aki was trying to focus on his laptop when Haruto plopped down beside him. You know, Haruto said casually, I could help you with that problem, or we could take a break and talk about, I don't know, feelings. Aki choked on his water. Sora, sitting across the table, didn't even flinch. He simply slid a notebook closer and said softly, if you need me to explain it again, I can. Don't worry about him. Aki blinked, caught between fluster and awe. This is a trap. A trap with two exits that both lead straight to my heart. That evening, Aki texted his best friend in desperation. I think I'm doomed. Both Haruto and Sora are. I don't know. And I never wanted this. What do I do? The reply was simple. Good luck, you messy disaster. Aki groaned. Yes, that summed it up perfectly. He was a disaster. A disaster trapped in a triangle. And the worst, or maybe best, part? He couldn't help but feel intrigued, curious, even a little excited despite the chaos. The triangle, it seemed, wasn't going anywhere. Akihiro was beginning to suspect that life had a personal vendetta against him. Not only had he accidentally confessed his feelings in front of Haruto and Sora, but now it seemed neither of them were willing to let him have a moment of peace. It started that morning in the courtyard. Aki had just found a quiet bench, determined to read a book in solitude. He exhaled in relief. Finally. Just me and my textbook. But of course tranquility was short-lived. Haruto was already lounging against the edge of the fountain, arms crossed and smirking like he had just won some invisible game. Fancy seeing you here, he said, leaning forward. Mind if I join? Aki groaned. I really need to study. Haruto only grinned wider. Studying together counts as quality time, right? Before Aki could respond, a shadow fell over the page he was desperately trying to focus on. Silver-haired Sora, calm as ever, stood there with a notebook balanced perfectly on his arm. I brought extra notes, he said softly. I thought we could review together. Aki blinked. Both of them? At the same time? Panic surged. Haruto leaned closer, whispering, looks like you've got a tough choice, Aki. His teasing tone sent Aki's heart hammering. Choice. Aki stammered, nearly dropping his pen. Sora, unruffled, simply gave him a small, patient smile. It's okay. Don't feel pressured. I just want to help. Aki wanted to melt into the bench. Or scream. Or both. The next hour was an exercise in chaos. Haruto kept teasing him, bumping elbows in the most innocent way possible, whispering jokes that only Aki could hear, while Sora stayed silently supportive, gently correcting mistakes and handing over notes with those soft, expressive eyes that made Aki feel exposed. By the time the sun was setting, Aki was a mess. Flustered, exhausted, and utterly confused. He knew one thing for certain. He had no idea what he was feeling. Later, as they walked back toward the dorms, Haruto fell into step beside him, grinning mischievously. You're blushing again. I'm not. Aki protested, voice cracking. Sora, slightly ahead, turned to look back, silver hair glowing in the sunset light. You really don't have to hide anything, he said quietly. I can tell when you're nervous. Or excited. Aki's knees threatened to buckle. Both of them were noticing him. Both of them were paying attention to him. And both were making it impossible for him to think straight. He tried to speak, tried to explain. But somehow every sentence sounded like a confession. Every word came out wrong, tangled in nerves and panic. Finally he stopped. I think I need some air, he muttered, taking off down a side street. Haruto laughed, catching up quickly. Running from your feelings, Aki? Sora followed at a calmer pace. We're not going to hurt you, he said softly. I promise. Aki glanced between them, breathless. Haruto's teasing grin. Sora's gentle, sincere eyes. And he realized, despite his protests, despite his panic, he was drawn to both of them. The realization made his head spin. Later that night, alone in his dorm, Aki stared at the ceiling. I can't choose. I don't even know if I want to choose. But somehow, I don't want them to leave either. He groaned. I've officially turned into a cliché. A love triangle cliché. And it's all my fault. And somewhere deep down, part of him was kind of excited. Because maybe, just maybe, being stuck between Haruto and Sora wasn't the worst thing in the world. Akihiro had spent the entire week in a state of emotional limbo. Haruto's teasing flirtations, Sora's quiet attentions, and his own racing thoughts had left him completely unmoored. Every time he thought he could figure out his feelings, the other two would appear, and his carefully constructed mental defenses would collapse like a house of cards. It all came to a head on Saturday afternoon. Their group had been assigned to present their project at the college lounge, and Aki, anticipating chaos, had tried to arrive early and set up alone. Of course, as fate would have it, Haruto and Sora arrived at the same time. Haruto leaned against the edge of the table, arms crossed, a smug grin plastered on his face. You really thought you could escape us, huh? Aki groaned. It's not like I'm. Sora, standing quietly beside the table, gave him a small, patient smile. Aki, can we talk? The three of them ended up alone in a quiet corner of the lounge after setting up the presentation. Aki's stomach twisted with anxiety. This was it, the moment of truth. He couldn't keep dodging. Look, he began, voice shaking. I never meant for any of this to happen. I didn't. You didn't mean to confess? Haruto interrupted, tilting his head, eyes sparkling with mischief. Or you didn't mean to get stuck between the two of us? Aki felt his face heat. I don't know. I didn't want a love triangle. Haruto laughed softly, stepping closer. Yeah, but here we are. And I'm not going anywhere. Sora's voice was softer, steadier, and Aki found himself turning to him automatically. Aki, it's okay if you're confused. I like you. That's all. No pressure. I just wanted you to know. Aki blinked. Both of them liked him. Both of them had feelings. And somehow, he had to figure out how to respond without completely ruining everything. I don't know what I feel, Aki admitted, voice barely above a whisper. I like you, Haruto, and I like you, Sora. I'm confused. I never wanted any of this. Haruto's expression softened slightly, though his grin never disappeared. You don't have to figure it out right now, Aki. I can wait. I enjoy watching you squirm, though. It's kind of fun. Aki couldn't help a small laugh despite the tension. Haruto's teasing always had that effect. Sora stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on Aki's shoulder. And I'll wait too. You don't have to make a choice yet. I just want to be here with you while you figure things out. Aki's chest tightened. Two people he cared about, two people he was undeniably drawn to, both giving him space and patience. Somehow, despite the chaos, it felt right. He looked between them, and a small, genuine smile broke through his flustered expression. I guess, maybe I don't have to decide everything right now. Maybe I can just see where this goes. Haruto's grin widened, and he leaned forward slightly as if sharing a secret. That's the spirit. Don't worry, Aki. You're mine, in the meantime. Sora chuckled softly, brushing a strand of silver hair from his forehead. And you're mine too, for now. Aki groaned, half exasperated, half amused. You two are impossible. Haruto leaned back, wiggling his eyebrows. But you like it. Aki buried his face in his hands, muttering, I'm doomed. And yet, somewhere deep down, he felt something warm spreading through his chest. Chaos, confusion, laughter, and a little bit of panic, but also happiness. Maybe it wasn't the love triangle he had wanted, but it was one he could live with. You know, he said, looking up at them, maybe this triangle isn't so bad. Haruto grinned, reaching for his hand and squeezing it. See? Life's better with a little chaos. Sora joined in, resting his hand gently over Aki's other one. And maybe a little love too. Aki looked at both of them, then laughed, a full, relieved laugh that echoed through the lounge. For once, he didn't feel panicked. He didn't feel lost. He just felt present. The three of them sat there, hands intertwined, hearts racing in different ways, and the world outside could wait. For the first time in days, Aki didn't care about perfection or timing. All that mattered was that he was with them. And somehow that was enough. Because love, messy, complicated, chaotic love, wasn't about having it all figured out. It was about enjoying the ride. And Akihiro, the accidental triangle starter, was finally ready to enjoy it.